What's up, everyone? So, well, right now it's evening and I'm going to fitness time in Riyadh in Rawabi. And well, there seems to be some traffic on this road. Let me adjust the camera. The camera was about to die, but well, the thing is that I put on the charger for the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, the extra battery handle. So now we are good to go. So let's see how much time it takes, but we are going from the older parts of Riyadh. I don't know how we will get out of this traffic, but just look at the clouds, just look at them. Wonderful, really. So it's a Thursday night, that's why there's a lot of traffic. And here we go. Right now we are in Nasiriyah district here in Riyadh. So this is what it feels like commuting in Riyadh. If you see the bikes on the right, extreme right, see how fast they are moving compared to us. Interesting. We are moving slowly, so that is actually the good thing. We are not like completely stuck, but let's see. Look at the traffic on the right. Oof. It's better we come towards the left because there will be people who will be trying to come to this lane. Let's just join the people here. Burjul Hammam. I wanted to try this restaurant, but well, haven't been able to till now. The weather is actually good. Let's go, everyone. Now we don't have that much traffic in this portion. Maybe it's like 1 kilometer long portion, a curve. Let's make the best out of it. Face a little bit of traffic, not little bit, I guess a lot more than little bit. What do you people think about an FJ Cruiser? This vehicle drinks the fuel. Like maybe it will give you 5-6 kilometers per liter. Let's try to listen to something while we are on our way.
Not all that unusual. I've spent half my life not knowing. Still, this feels different. This confusion is more frightening, more total. I look up. I'm lying on the floor beside the bed. I remember now. I moved from the bed to the floor in the middle of the night. I do that most nights. Better for my back. I count to 3, then start the long, difficult process of standing. With a cough, a groan, I roll onto my side, then curl into the fetal position, then flip over onto my stomach. I'm a young man, relatively speaking, 36, but I wake as if I'm 96. After 3 decades of sprinting, stopping on a dime, jumping high and landing hard, my body no longer feels like my body, especially in the morning. Consequently, my mind doesn't feel like my mind. Upon opening my eyes, I'm a stranger to myself. I run quickly through the basic facts. My name is Andre Agassi. My wife's name is Steffi Graf. We have 2 children, a son and a daughter, 5 and 3. We live in Las Vegas, Nevada, but currently reside in a suite at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York City because I'm playing in the 2006 US Open, my last US Open. In fact, my last tournament ever. I play tennis for a living, even though I hate tennis. Hate it with a dark and secret passion, and always have. As this last piece of identity falls into place, I slide to my knees and in a whisper I say, please let this be over. Then I say, I'm not ready for it to be over. Hate brings me to my knees, love gets me on my feet. Gil, my trainer, my friend, my surrogate father, explains it this way. Your body is saying that it doesn't want to do this anymore. My body has been saying that for a long time, I tell Gil. Almost as long as I've been saying it. My body doesn't want to retire. My body has already retired. My body has moved to Florida and bought a condo. So I've been negotiating with my body, asking it to come out of retirement for a few hours here and a few hours there. Much of this negotiation revolves around a cortisone shot that temporarily dulls the pain. Before the shot works, however, it causes its own torments. I got one yesterday so I could play tonight. It was the 3rd shot this year, the 13th of my career, and by far the most alarming. The burning sensation made me bite my lip. Then came the pressure. The tiny space in my spine where the nerves are housed began to feel vacuum-packed. The pressure built until I thought my back would burst. Pressure is how you know everything's working, the doctor said. Words to live by, doc. I limp out to the living room of our suite. My son Jaden and my daughter Jazz see me and scream, "Daddy, Daddy." They jump up and down and want to leap on me. They stop just before leaping because they know Daddy is delicate these days. Daddy will shatter if you touch him too hard. Jaden asks if today is the day. Yes. You're playing? Yes. And then after today you retire? Not if I win, son. If I win tonight, I keep playing. He hopes Daddy loses, hopes Daddy experiences the disappointment that surpasses all others. He doesn't understand. And how will I ever be able to explain it to him? The pain of losing, the pain of playing. It has taken me nearly 30 years to understand it myself, to solve the calculus of my own psyche. I sit quietly at the table, looking around the suite. It's like every other hotel suite I've ever had, only more so. Clean, chic, comfortable. It's lovely, but it's still just another version of what I call not home. The non-place that we exist as athletes. I go to the bathroom and look in the mirror. I stare at my face, a face totally different from the one with which I started, but also different from the one I saw last year in this same mirror. Whoever I might be, I'm not the boy who started this odyssey, and I'm not even the man who announced 3 months ago that the odyssey was coming to an end. I'm like a tennis racket on which I've replaced the grip 4 times and the strings 7 times. Is it accurate to call it the same racket? Somewhere in those eyes, however, I can still vaguely see the boy who didn't want to play tennis in the first place. The boy who wanted to quit. The boy who did quit many times. I see that golden-haired boy who hated tennis, and I wonder how he would view this bald man who still hates tennis and yet still plays. Would he be shocked? Amused? Would he be proud? Please let this be over. I'm not ready for it to be over. That is an excerpt from the book that I'm going to talk about today, which is Open, the autobiography of Andre Agassi. This is the book that over the years has been the most requested book for me to cover on the podcast. I had a hard time putting it down. It turns out it is as good as everybody told me that it was. I want to get right to the central point of the book, which is Andre's relationship with his father. But before I jump into that, there's just a lot of great random ideas in this first chapter that I think are also related to athletics and entrepreneurship. So he talks about tennis is the sport in which you talk to yourself. Tennis players talk to themselves and answer. In the heat of a match, tennis players look like lunatics in a public square, ranting and swearing and conducting debates with their alter egos. Why? Because tennis is so damn lonely. The amount of founders that have told me that they talk to themselves out loud, they answer themselves, they're constantly negotiating with their own psyche, I've lost count of. And then they also talk about how it's so damn lonely. And one of the interesting byproducts of all this self-talk and talking to yourself is actually you come up with a lot of good ideas this way. And for Agassi, it was no different. For him, a lot of this self-talk also happens in the shower. He says tennis is the closest to solitary confinement, which inevitably leads to self-talk. And for me, the self-talk starts here in the afternoon shower. This is the most important sentence of this paragraph. This is when I began to say things to myself, crazy things, over and over until I believe them. I have won 869 matches in my career, 5th on the all-time list, and many were won during the afternoon shower. And he tells us parts of the conversation he's having with himself, and I think a lot of this is just excellent advice. I give myself strict orders. Take it 1 point at a time. Make your opponent work for everything. No matter what happens, hold your head up. And for God's sake, enjoy it, or at least try to enjoy moments of it, even the pain, even the losing, if that's what's in store for you. I close my eyes and say, control what you can control. Control what you can control. He repeats that line over and over again throughout the book. I say it again, aloud. Saying it aloud makes me feel brave. What you feel doesn't matter in the end. It's what you do that makes you brave. And then he ends the chapter trying to answer the question he gets asked all the time, like, you have a very unusual life. What is this like? People often ask what it's like, this tennis life, and I can never think how to describe it. But this word comes closest. More than anything else, it's a wrenching, thrilling, horrible, astonishing whirl. And then I would say maybe the first fourth or the first third of the book is all about the relationship, this torturous relationship with his father. There's a line from the founder of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang. He said that he doesn't like to give up on people. He'd rather torture them into greatness. And when you read a book about Jensen, you realize he did the same for himself. I think Agassi, after reading and rereading all these parts about his relationship with his dad, was tortured into greatness against his will. This is a very unusual autobiography where you have somebody that literally becomes the person that's the best in the world at what he does. And he hates the thing that he does. And you could never possibly understand that unless you understand the relationship that he has with his father. I'm 7 years old talking to myself because I'm scared and because I'm the only person who listens to me. Under my breath, I whisper, just quit, Andre, just give up, put down your racket and walk off this court right now. But I can't. Not only would my father chase me around the house with my racket, but something in my gut, some deep, unseen muscle won't let me. I hate tennis. I hate it with all my heart, and I still keep playing. Keep hitting all morning and all afternoon because I have no choice. No matter how much I want to stop, I don't. I keep begging myself to stop, and I keep playing. And this gap, this contradiction between what I want to do and what I actually do feels like the core of my life. My father yells everything twice, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 10. Harder, he says, harder. Every ball I send across the net joins the thousands that already cover the court. Not hundreds, thousands. My father says that if I hit 2,500 balls each day, I'll hit 17,500 balls each week, and at the end of 1 year, I'll have hit nearly 1 million balls. He believes in math. Numbers, he says, don't lie. A child who hits 1 million balls each year will be unbeatable. He's yelling directly into my ear, day and night, yelling in my ear. He turns around, sees me watching. What the hell are you looking at? Keep hitting, keep hitting. My shoulder aches. I can't hit another ball. I hit another 3. I can't go on another minute. I go on another 10. He glares. What the fuck are you doing? Stop thinking. No fucking thinking. Thinking, my father believes, is the source of all bad things because thinking is the opposite of doing. I often think about how I can stop thinking. I wonder if my father yells at me to stop thinking because he knows I'm a thinker by nature. And so let me pause right there. I think that's one of the benefits of reading this book. Andre is obviously a very introspective person, and it takes him decades of deep introspection to figure out who he is. And that takes him more than 3.5 decades of life. And part of the reason it's taken him so long, even though he has very high levels of introspection, is because he had to suppress who he was and what he wanted his life to be because of this domineering father that tortured him into greatness. My father looks at this as a backyard tennis court. I look at it like a prison. No one ever asked me if I wanted to play tennis, let alone make it my life. My father decided long before I was born that I would be a professional tennis player. Violent by nature, my father is forever preparing for battle. He shadowboxes constantly. He keeps an axe handle in his car. He leaves the house with a handful of salt and pepper in each pocket in case he's in a street fight and needs to blind someone. And this is such a perfect line to describe somebody like this. Of course, some of his most vicious battles are with himself. So Andre's constantly telling the stories about the violent nature of his father, probably one of the reasons why he refused or maybe couldn't resist his father. And even though he hated what he was doing, felt the need and the deep need to please his father. It's obvious how confusing this is for Andre as a young boy. He has this deep love for his father, but he's deeply, deeply scared of him, and you would be scared of him too. Here's an example. They're in a car. He gets into a shouting match with another driver. My father stops his car, steps out, orders the man out of his. Because my father is wielding an axe, the man refuses. My father whips the axe into the man's headlights and taillights, sending sprays of glass everywhere. Another time, my father reaches across me and points his handgun at another driver. He holds the gun level with my nose. I stare straight ahead. I do not move. Such moments and many more come to mind whenever I think about telling my father that I don't want to play tennis. Besides loving my father and wanting to please him, I don't want to upset him. I don't dare. Bad stuff happens when my father is upset. If he says I'm going to play tennis, if he says I'm going to be number 1 in the world, that is my destiny. All I can do is nod and obey. Before we get back into the story, I want to tell you about this conversation I had with John Mackey, who's the founder of Whole Foods. I spent a bunch of time with John, and he told me one of the craziest things that anyone has ever said about this podcast. By the time I met him, he had listened to over 100 different episodes, and he said that if founders existed when he was younger, Whole Foods would still be an independent company. That since this podcast and all of history's greatest entrepreneurs constantly emphasize the importance of controlling expenses, he would have put more of a priority on it, especially during good times. During boom times, it is very natural for a company and really for human nature to just not watch your costs as closely because everything is going so well. This is something that history's greatest founders would warn against. Andrew Carnegie would repeat this mantra time and time again. He would say, profits and prices are cyclical, subject to any number of transient forces of the marketplace. Costs, however, could be strictly controlled, and any savings achieved in costs were permanent. This is something that I was talking about with my friend Eric, who's the co-founder and CEO of Ramp. Ramp is the presenting sponsor of this podcast. I've gotten to know him. And spend a bunch of time with them over the last 2 years. They all listen to the podcast and they picked up on the fact.
Okay guys, it's time for Maghrib, although I'm driving, but we'll just stop the video for a bit.
The main theme from the podcast is on the importance of watching your costs and controlling your spend, and how doing so can give you a massive competitive advantage. That is a main theme for Ramp. The reason that Ramp exists is to give you everything you need to control your spend. Ramp gives you everything you need to control your costs. Ramp gives you easy to use corporate cards for your entire team, automated expense reporting, and cost control. There's a line in Andrew Carnegie's biography that says cost control became nearly an obsession. Ramp helps you make it an obsession. If Carnegie was alive today, he'd be running his business on Ramp. Make history's greatest entrepreneurs proud by going to ramp.com to learn how they can help your business save time and money today. That is ramp.com. So now Andre is 7 years old. I win my first 7 tournaments. My father has no reaction. I'm simply doing what I'm supposed to do. And even as an 8-year-old, when he's down a set in a tournament that means nothing, listen to Andre's reaction. I'm stunned. I'm scared. My father is going to kill me. After years of hearing my father rant at my flaws, one loss has caused me to take up his rant. I've internalized my father, his impatience, his perfectionism, his rage, until his voice doesn't feel like my own. It is my own. I no longer need my father to torture me. From this day on, I can do it all by myself. And I think one of the most important lessons of this book, because you see, is like, okay, well, why is his father like this? Where did this come from? And the difference between Andre and his father is Andre's search to try to fix. Andre's not like this with his own kids. His father learned this from his mother and never stopped the cycle. My father's mother lives with us, and she's a nasty old lady. She's saying the same nasty thing she said yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. And she's saying it to her son, to Andre's father. This seems to be the reason grandma was put on the earth, to to harass my father. She nagged him since he was a boy, and she often beat him. My father's past was sad and lonely, and helps explain his odd behavior and his boiling rage. This goes on day after day, year after year. I hit for a half hour, my head throbbing, my eyes tearing. Hit harder, my father says. God damn it, hit harder. Not in the fucking net. Tennis is his life, his reason for getting out of bed, his obsession. My father lies in bed and sees a court on the ceiling. He says he can actually see it there. And on that ceiling, he plays countless imaginary matches. And this is when it hits you when you're reading the book. He's tormenting his son to live out his own unfulfilled dreams. And Andre realizes that he has to do this because he's going to help his family, which doesn't have a lot of money, make money. They live in Las Vegas. As a casino captain, it's my father's job to seat people at the shows. Right this way, Mr. Johnson. Nice to see you again, Mrs. Jones. The MGM pays him a small salary, and the rest he earns in tips. We live on tips, which makes life unpredictable. And his father starts using his 8-year-old son as a tennis hustler. They go down to the local courts. They see Jim Brown, who just so happens to be one of the greatest football players of all time. Jim Brown is a big, hulking man. And Andre's father goes up to him and tells him, my kid is going to beat you. Let's play for money. And this is the conversation. My son will play you for money. I feel a bead of sweat starting down my armpit. Yeah, how much? My father laughs and says, I'll bet you my fucking house. I don't need your house, Mr. Brown says. I've got a house. Let's say 10 grand. So they go back and forth. They wind up betting 500 instead of 10 grand. But an 8-year-old Andre Agassi plays this grown man, one of the greatest football players of all time, and beats him. I beat Mr. Brown 6-2, sweat running down his face. He pulls a wad from his pocket and counts out 5 crisp hundreds. He hands them to my father and then turns to me. Great game, son. He shakes my hand. My father tells him he's going to be number 1 in the world. I wouldn't bet against him, Mr. Brown says. And then this gives you more insight into his father's personality. Not long after beating Mr. Brown, I play a practice match against my father. I'm up 5-2, serving for the match. I've never beaten my father, and he looks as if he's about to lose much more than $10,000. Suddenly, he walks off the court. Get your stuff, he says. Let's go. He won't finish. He'd rather sneak away than lose to his son. And so now he's 10 years old. He loses a tournament. He says, how can losing hurt so much? How can anything hurt so much? I walk off the court wishing I were dead. He gets this consolation trophy. It's called the Sportsman Trophy. And this is what his dad does. I walk out to the car, clutching the trophy to my chest. My father's a step behind me. He says nothing. I say nothing. Finally, I break my silence. I say, I don't want this stupid thing. I say it because I think it's what my father wants to hear. My father comes alongside me. He rips the trophy from my hands. He lifts it over his head and throws it on the cement. The trophy shatters. I don't say a word. I know not to say a word. Andre hates tennis. He hates playing an individual sport. He starts to play soccer, which he loves. He wants to be on a team. His father at first allows him to play soccer because he thinks the conditioning would be good for tennis, but then realizes that there's a risk of injury by playing soccer may keep him away from practicing tennis. And so his father literally yanks him out in the middle of a soccer game and says, you're never playing soccer again. I beg him for a second chance. I tell my father that I don't like being by myself on that huge tennis court. Tennis is lonely. He shouts at the top of his lungs, you're a tennis player. You're going to be number 1 in the world. You're going to make lots of money. That's the plan, and that's the end of it. His father is insane. So he did this with his other, Andre I think has 3 older siblings, and he tried to turn them into professional tennis players too. His older brother is named Philly. Listen to this conversation. Remember, Andre's around 10 years old. One night, Philly asked me to promise him something. Sure, Philly, anything. Don't ever let Pops give you any pills. Pills? Andre, you have to hear what I'm telling you. This is really important. Okay, Philly, I hear you. I'm listening. Next time you go away to nationals, if Pop gives you pills, do not take them. These pills are tiny, white, round. Do not take them whatever you do. What if Pop makes me? I can't say no to Pop. If you have to take the pills, if he makes you take them, play a bad match. Tank. Then as you come off the court, tell him you were shaking so bad that you couldn't concentrate. Okay, Philly, but what are these pills? Speed. What's that? A drug gives you lots of energy. I just know he's going to try to slip you some speed. How do you know, Philly? He gave it to me. Sure enough, at the Nationals, my father gives me a pill. Hold out your hand, he says. This will help you. Take it. He puts a pill in my palm. Tiny, white, and round. Andre's dad has this vision of how his son's life's going to be, and he doesn't care. He couldn't care less what his own son's vision is. And Andre says, having no choice, having no say about what I do or who I am makes me crazy. And so he sends Andre away to basically this tennis boarding school. And so Andre describes this school. When we're not drilling, we're studying the psychology of tennis. We take classes on mental toughness, positive thinking, and visualization. We're taught to close our eyes and picture ourselves winning Wimbledon, hoisting the trophy above our heads. This is when he starts to rebel. No one seems to notice my antics. I've mutilated my hair, grown my nails. I've pierced my body, broken rules, busted curfew, picked fistfights, thrown tantrums, cut classes, even slipped into the girls' barracks after hours. I've consumed gallons of whiskey. I chew tobacco and smoke weed. What new sin can I commit to show the world I'm unhappy and I want to go home? And yet, as you can imagine, if he's been forced to pick up a tennis racket when he's 4, forced to hit 1 million balls a year, now is sent off to this completely rigorous tennis boot camp, a decade in, he's really good. And even though he hates what he's doing, he likes being great at what he does. I'm 15 years old and I'm beating grown men. I'm beating them senseless. I'm churning my way through the ranks. Everywhere I walk, people are pointing at me, whispering, there he is. That's the kid I was telling you about, the prodigy. It's the prettiest word I've ever heard applied to me. And so he's playing all these tournaments, he's winning them or he's getting to the final, and they offer him money. And so far up until this point, he hasn't accepted any of the money because the minute he takes $1 for playing tennis, he's no longer an amateur and he's got to turn pro. And so he's offered this check of $1,100 at this tournament. He calls his dad to figure out what to do. I phone my father back in Vegas and ask him what I should do. My father says, what the hell do you mean? Take the money. If I take the money, there's no turning back. I'm pro. So what? If I cash this check, Pops, that's it. He acts as if we had a bad connection. You've dropped out of school. You have an 8th grade education. What are your choices? What the hell else are you going to do? Be a doctor? None of this comes as news to me, but I hate the way he puts it. I tell the tournament director I'll take the money. As the words leave my mouth, I feel a shelf of possibilities fall away. I don't know what those possibilities might be, but that's the point. I never will know. The man hands me a check, and as I walk out of his office, I feel I'm starting down a long, long road, one that seems to lead into a dark, ominous forest. It is April 29th, 1986, my 16th birthday. Brad Jacobs has this great line in the book that he wrote, which is called How to Make a Few Billion Dollars. It's episode 335 of Founders. And he says, so much of success in business comes from keeping your head in a good place. And I kept...
Boss, assalamualaikum.
055.
Yes, boss. Boss, it's 17 minutes for 7 kilometers. Yeah. Okay, boss. See you. Okay, boss. See you there. Okay.
Thinking about that because I think one of the benefits of reading this book is you see Andre's struggles mentally, and you see him working his way through. This is really a story of redemption. He, has this crazy father, this terrible childhood where he has no control, no autonomy, no choice about what happens to him at all. He somehow gets to be the #1 tennis player in the world. Then he's going to have this crazy fall to the point where he's smoking meth, falls so low that he has to start from the very bottom. He starts playing like local tournaments at tennis courts and parks and at community colleges and has to fight his way all the way back, which he does. And all along the way, as you're following this life story, he's sharing and then analyzing what the hell is going on in his head. So again, when you read one of the benefits of reading biographies and autobiographies, these are life stories, but you're not thinking about that person. You're thinking about you. You're thinking, oh, I know exactly how that feels, or, oh, I don't want to be like that. And what's fascinating is you see this push and pull between euphoria and terror. Through being proud of himself because he's really skilled at what he does, to being completely depressed in an agony, emotional agony, especially with losing. Something that Andre Agassi has in common with, what I say, a lot of the great entrepreneurs, is they hate losing more than they love winning. And there's so many times, like there's one time when he loses in a tournament and he goes to this park and he says, I found myself surrounded by a group of homeless men. I dump out my tennis bag, I pull out all the rackets, each of them is worth hundreds of dollars, and I pass them around. He's handing out his tennis rackets to a bunch of homeless guys in a park. Here, help yourselves. I sure as hell won't be needing them. I've had it. I cannot do this anymore. And he has a great line about this. He says, whatever rage I have, I turn it on myself. And so he's rebelling this entire time. He's got a mohawk, he's dyeing his hair, he's got these earrings, he's wearing these crazy outfits. He's yelling at himself, he's cursing at himself. In some cases, in many cases, he gets kicked out of tournaments because of all the profanity that he's yelling. But the unexpected commercial or business benefit of this is he is a singular property. He has turned himself into a completely differentiated property. He doesn't look or dress or act like any other players. And as a result of this, the fans start imitating him, and then his sponsors are able to move a lot of product. This happens throughout the story, and it's not something he was doing intentionally. I noticed something on their faces of the fans too. The way they watch me and ask for my autograph, the way they scream as I enter an arena. This makes me uncomfortable, but it also satisfies something deep inside me, some hidden craving I didn't know was there. I'm shy, but I like attention. I cringe when fans start dressing like me, but I also dig it. I'm flattered by the imitators, embarrassed, thoroughly confused. I can't imagine all these people trying to be like Andre Agassi, since I don't want to be Andre Agassi. There's a story in the book later on where he goes out one night, gets completely drunk, and is completely hungover the next day and has to play in a tournament. So he wears Oakley sunglasses to hide the fact that his eyes are bloodshot and he's hungover. He winds up winning. There's a great picture of him. It's put on the cover of a magazine. It sells a ton of Oakley sunglasses. And the founder of Oakley, without telling Andre beforehand, has a brand new Dodge Viper delivered to Andre's house as a thank you. And again, he does not hide at any step along the way that he's just very confused. He doesn't know who he is. He's talking about the fact that, he has to sit for all these interviews. Media is a huge part of his job. Journalists are always asking him questions, and he says, you're asking about the subject that I understand the least, me. And even though he hates himself, even though in many cases he's deeply depressed, he likes the response that he's getting. Millions of fans like me, apparently. I get sacks full of fan mail, including naked pictures of women with their phone numbers scrawled along the margin. And yet each day I'm vilified because of my look, because of my behavior. I absorb the role of the villain. I accept it. I grow into it. I am the villain in every match, in every tournament. And so one thing that Charlie Munger says that I think is really important, he says, anybody engaged in difficult work needs somebody they can organize their thoughts with. That person should be somebody, you like and admire and trust. Some people do this with friends, coaches, therapists. Some turn to religion. And so Andre considers him a Christian, but he never felt that he was close to God. He couldn't find the right church. And one day he stumbles into this church with a pastor who doesn't want to be called a pastor, this guy named JP. JP is going to be one of Andre's lifelong friends, somebody that will travel the world with Andre, and somebody Andre will talk to and call when he has difficult times in his life. And this is the first time he meets him. He insists that we call him JP. He says he wants his church to feel unlike a church. He wants it to feel like a home where friends gather. He doesn't have any answers, he says. He just happens to have read the Bible a few dozen times, front to back, and has some observations to share. JP's church is the first one where I felt truly close to God. And so they spend a lot of time together. They have these long conversations. Andre usually feels better after he talks to somebody. He says it must be bizarre to have strangers think they know me and love me beyond reason, while others think they know me and resent me beyond reason, all while I'm a relative stranger to myself. What makes it perverse, I tell him, is that it all revolves around tennis, and I hate tennis. He has this conversation so many times in the book, and every time the person says, yeah, okay, but you don't actually hate tennis. And he says, yes, I do. I talk about my father. I tell JP about the yelling, the pressure, the rage, the abandonment. JP gets a funny look on his face. You do realize, don't you, that God isn't anything like your father? You know that, don't you? God, he says, is the opposite of your father. God isn't mad at you all the time. God isn't yelling in your ear, harping on your imperfections. The voice you hear all the time, that angry voice, that's not God. That's still your father. I turn to him. Do me a favor and say that again. He does, word for word. Say it once more. He does. I thank him. And this is one of the most important relationships of Andre's life, and to me, one of the most interesting in the book. Fast forward to Andre talking to JP after this devastating loss. I stare into the river and ask JP, what if I'm no good? What if today wasn't a bad day, but my best day? I'm always making excuses when I lose. I could have beaten him if I did such and such, if I'd wanted it, if I had my A game, if I'd gotten the calls. But what if I'm playing my best and I care and I want it and I'm still not the best in the world? JP responds, well, what if? I think I'd rather die. I lean against the railing, sobbing. JP has the decency, the wisdom to say and do nothing. He knows there's nothing to say, nothing to do, but to wait for this fire to burn out. That's a great line and a great way to describe some of these emotions that are uncontrollable. You just have to wait for the fire to burn out. In the very beginning of the book, he talks about this guy, Gil, who's his trainer, his friend, but really a surrogate father. And even at this point in his career, Andre's making a ton of money. He's famous. He's winning a lot of tournaments. And he goes over to Gil's house on Christmas Eve, and Gil can't understand it. It's like, wouldn't you be happier at a party? Why aren't you, you're young, why aren't you hanging out with your friends? And Andre says something that's very revealing here, that it finally clicked for me what he's doing. I tell him my life has never for one day belonged to me. My life has always belonged to someone else. First my father, then Nick. Nick is the guy that ran the tennis academy in Florida. And always tennis. Even my body wasn't my own until I met you, because he's his trainer, who is doing the one thing that fathers are supposed to do, making me stronger. So being here, Gil, with you and your family, I feel for the first time in my life that I'm where I belong. And that's when you realize what Andre's doing. He's looking for a father. He wants a father. And Gil plays that role of protector. Andre's talking about his childhood. He says, I spent my childhood in an isolation chamber, and my teen years in a torture chamber. Sometimes a workout with Gil is actually just a conversation. We don't touch a single weight. There are many, many ways, Gil says, of getting strong, and sometimes talking is the best way. And so he talks about Gil, how disorienting this experience is. He's on the road, tennis players on the road something like 10 or 11 months out of the year. It's all very Groundhog Day, same venue, same opponents, only the years and the scores are different. I tell him the central truth, the fact that he hates tennis. If that's true, he says, why play? I'm not suited for anything else. I don't know how to do anything else. Tennis is the only thing I'm qualified for. And my father would have a fit if I did anything different. Gil scratches his ear. This is a new one to him. He's known hundreds of athletes, but he's never known one who hated athletics. He doesn't know what to say. I reassure him that there's nothing to be said. I don't understand it myself. I can only tell him how it is. And then Gil thinks about this for a while, and sometime later, he passes along some words that his mother would tell him as pieces of advice to Andre. How lovely it is to dream while you're awake. Dream while you're awake, Andre. Anybody can dream while they're asleep, but you need to dream all the time and say your dreams out loud and believe in them. And what they're referencing is, even though Andre is one of the most talented tennis players alive, his head, the inner game of tennis, the mental aspect is keeping him from winning. He is self-sabotaging. He is lying to himself, saying it's not really important that I win this, when it is. And so as he begins to work on his body to make it stronger, he does so on his mind. And this mind, again, you're working on your mind, it's not a straight line. It's a ton of peaks and valleys for the next decade and a half of his life. As the fifth set begins, I run in place to get the blood flowing, and I tell myself one thing. He's playing in the finals at Wimbledon. This is what's happening right now. You want this. You do not want to lose. Not this time. The problem is, in the last 3 slams, was that you didn't want them enough, and therefore you didn't bring it. But this one, you want. You need to let your opponent and everyone else in this joint know that you want it. The crowd rises. I call time to have a talk with myself, aloud, saying, win this point, or I'll never let you hear the end of it, Andre. Don't hope he double faults. Don't hope he misses. You control what you can control. Return this serve with all of your strength, and if you return it hard but miss, you can live with that. You can survive that. One return, no regrets. Hit harder. I jump in the air, swing with all my strength. Somehow he misses the easy volley. His ball smacks the net, and just like that, after 22 years and 22 million swings of a tennis racket, I'm the 1992 Wimbledon champion. I fall to my knees. I fall on my stomach. I leave, the ocean pouring out of me. After the mumbling, I dial my father